Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. What a packed show we have for you today as we react to, yes, folks, yet another European win on the PGA Tour. So I picked a hell of a week to have not one, but two American guests on the show. First up, the numero uno golfing analyst in the US, the one and only Brandel Chamblee. Good morning to you, Brandel, all the way from Arizona.
Yeah, good morning to you. Happy to join you guys. Looking forward to the whatever the hour we got here. I'm happy to talk a little golf with you guys.
Lovely to have you with us. And we're also very lucky to have alongside him a man who was right in the mix yesterday, finishing a tie for fourth and on the way producing maybe one of the greatest up and downs you are ever likely to see. We will discuss that in detail shortly. One of the world's very best left-handed golfers, Billy Horschel. Good morning to you, Bill.
Good morning, guys. Happy to be with you guys as always.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Billy, also in action tonight as we record this in the final of TGL. We'll be discussing that too, of course, as well as picking over all the bones of a dramatic conclusion to the Florida swing at the Valspar, including Adam Hadwin's inadvertent run-in with a sprinkler. We'll look ahead to Houston, where the world's top two will be hoping to fine-tune their games before heading to Augusta. Speaking of Augusta, a former Masters champion secures his place at this year's Open Championship in Portrush. There are back-to-back wins for two best pals on the DP World Tour. The US have appointed their Solheim Cup captain, and in the second half of the pod, we will have the first part of our interview with the man who had a front row seat for some of the greatest scenes the game has ever witnessed, Tiger's former caddy, Steve Williams. But we will start with a sensational victory in Innisbrook. Missed cut, missed cut, missed cut win. In the champion's own words, golf is a stupid, stupid game, Brandel, isn't it?
Well, listen, I think everybody who plays this game would agree that, especially at the professional level. But I mean, Viktor Hovland is so ridiculously talented. I was listening to his interview yesterday, and he's just got such a high bar for himself. He almost didn't cut himself any slack. He's like, I didn't hit it that well. My misses aren't very good. Yeah, I putted the eyes out of it, and a good thing's going to happen when you do that. But he's such a wonderful guy to watch play the game. And even when he's still going through it, his struggles around the green, he handles those questions which come every time he's interviewed, I think
Yeah.
with great grace. You'd think he'd get tired of them, he wouldn't want to hear them, but he handles them. He's like, "Look, I'm working on it. I'm trying to find my way through it." So he's a wonderful person to have in the game of golf because not only is he a huge talent, but he's great with the media.
Yeah, he really is. His honesty is very refreshing. We'll come back to that in a bit. But Billy, he was three shots back from Justin Thomas as he stood over a 13-foot putt on the 14th, holes that birdie putt, then birdies the first two holes of the snake pit, the 16th and 17th. Just give us an idea of how difficult that is to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a scoring trailer and I just saw JT birdie 15 to get 12 under. And I'm thinking, ball game.
Yeah.
It's set, done, over with. Obviously, I knew there was more guys out there, but you know, what I didn't know at the time is that yes, JT was what at that point I think 7 on the par 4 is on the golf,
Mm.
6 or 7 on the par, and but when I watched the coverage last night, he had hit some drives in some loose spots and got away with some stuff. So it wasn't one of those 7 on the par rounds where it would just stripe show down the middle of the fairway, middle of the green. He had hit some loose shots and had gotten away with it. And so I just figured, hey, he's playing great golf, 7 on the par. He's going to get this done. And unfortunately, listen, those 3 holes, yes, they were tough, but the wind direction really wasn't that made those holes play easier. It wasn't nearly as strong. On 16, you had the wind sort of helping off the right. So, you
Mm.
could have hit a 3 wood. Both me and him like to hit a sliding driver. And we both hit the same shot that we pulled it left and didn't slide it. And then on 17, obviously, it's a back pin, but with that wind just off the left, it was easier than normal because obviously the wind can come off the right and can play a lot longer at 225. And 18 is just a tough tee shot. There's a tree there on the left, so as a cutter of the golf ball, when you're nervous, you want to hit a bigger cut to feel like you can move it more, and that tree just sits there in your eye line a little bit, and it can mess with you. And obviously, he pulled his shot and unfortunately made bogey on 16 and 18. But yeah, I thought it was over. I didn't think he wasn't gonna win the golf tournament. And then for Victor, the produced birdies on 16, 17, was fabulous, and JT messed up. And so, listen, two guys, went two different directions. JT's upset, and Victor's over the moon that he won a golf tournament when he didn't hit it very good, in his words.
Yeah, and two bizarrely quite parallel stories in terms of obviously generational talents who haven't won for such a long time, and in Justin Thomas' case, obviously still haven't won for such a long time. Victor, as Brandel has alluded to, incredibly frank when it comes to discussing where his game is. Even after winning, he admitted he'd hit some, quote, disgusting shots. Here he is speaking about his recent struggles to Kira K. Dixon.
My iron game, I just, I can still hit good shots, but I know that there's some bad ones creeping in there. But somehow this week, I was just able to hit the good shots that I can a lot more often than I have been the recent weeks. But it's still the same tendencies, and there's still some of those high rights out there that I need to work on. But it's unbelievable to see that I could win, because I honestly did not believe that I could do it this week.
When you get to this place from the 2023 Tour Championship, that's the last time you were able to raise a trophy, and you think about that journey, what are the obstacles that you've overcome?
I mean, just playing poorly, and all that comes with that. There's a lot of insecurities, a lot of doubts. It's tough to get excited to come out here. This is what I love doing. This is what I want to be doing. But when you have no confidence and you just don't think or don't believe you're going to play well, that's pretty tough. So it's been a rough year and a half, but I think I'm stronger because of it, and hopefully I can still work on some things, and we'll be better off.
Wonderful and very rare to see honesty like that. His hug with his caddy Shea in the 18th, almost one of relief rather than joy. He's gone down a rabbit hole trying to find the answers, as Victor. And Billy, I think this is probably something you can probably relate to. You've always been very frank and brutally honest about where your game is. Victor almost takes it to the nth degree. He is so honest when it comes to where his game is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, a lot of things he said there, I felt in 23, and
Yeah.
I'm very much a perfectionist the way Victor is. I think we're very open and honest for the games. Obviously, he goes an even further bit to sort of maybe um, demoralize himself sometimes a little bit. I feel like, self-deprecating a little bit to an nth degree more than I will, at least in a public sense. But I understand. I mean, when you walk out there and you're just like, yeah, I know I can hit some good golf shots, but I know there's bad shots coming. I just don't know when that bad swing is going to come. Like, that's a scary thing to have. And then, it is sort of, you know, we're both motivated to work hard at the game and grind away and sort of perfect this game. But man, it's tough sometimes to get out there when you feel like you're not moving in the right direction, and you feel like that path, you can't see a path to sort of figuring this out. And so listen, he still is on that journey, as you can tell, and Victor is never satisfied. Obviously he's a perfectionist at heart, and but I can sort of relate tremendously with what how he talks and how he says, and um about his golf game. So yeah, I mean, I it is funny, sometimes you win tournaments when you don't think you're going to win. And I mean, I remember winning the Byron Nelson in 2017. I think I came off 4 missed cuts out of 5, and I went to Byron Nelson, and I remember staying on the range on Tuesday afternoon, hitting the ball awful, and I'm like, I'm not playing this week, I'm done. I'm like, if I don't hit the ball good in the Pro-Am tomorrow or have some semblance, like, I'm not playing. And I hit it okay, and next thing you know, I'm holding up the trophy at the end of the week, and yeah, I hit some really good golf shots, but same thing, I putted my butt off for 4 days, and I won the golf
Yeah.
tournament. And this game is just so crazy, and just does your mind in, and you just can never make sense of it. And that's why you just sort of, as I tell people, I said, you're just put one foot in front of the other every day, and just keep believing that you're going in the right direction. And I believe, and hopefully you get to where you want to go.
It was a crazy game. I'm very glad I have to talk about it for a living rather than play it for a living. I can tell you that much. Brandel, it was a victory that almost came completely out of the blue. The man himself clearly still thinks he's not quite there yet, but the iron play is looking sharp. The putting yesterday in particular was ridiculous. Perhaps most impressively, and this is what really is the sign of a true champion, performing under pressure. And the way he played that 16th was clutch.
Yeah, I mean, you don't forget how to win. Your game can get rusty, you get down on yourself, You know, the game sort of goes away incrementally, and then your confidence goes away, but your confidence is kind of the last thing to come back. My wife and I were out running around yesterday, so I was just listening to it on the radio. And when I got back in, I was like, I got to look at where he finished in these stats because he sounded like he was like 80th in strokes gained off of the tee, and 50th in strokes gained approach, and he was 6th in strokes gained approach. And then I looked and watched the shot he hit into 16 and 17. I was like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. You know, he's acting like he's hitting it all over the lot. He's just hitting it right on the button. You know, it's funny though. You know, the same thing that is your greatest gift can be your greatest curse. And if you make it to the tour, not only are you talented, but you're so type A personality and you're so driven to improve. I mean, that's how you get to the tour. I was as guilty of it. You know, I wasn't as good a player as Viktor or Billy Horschel, but I was certainly in that vein. You know, I was always tinkering, always trying to get better, and probably to my detriment. So if you look at Viktor Hovland, I'm not going to say he's wasted 2 years, but these are 2 down years in the prime of his career that you'll never get back. You'll never get them back. I mean, in the absolute sweet spot of his career, wins the FedEx Cup and then goes down the rabbit hole looking to make his golf swing better. And I get it. That's what got him there. But it's so dangerous because in a blink of an eye, you lose that spark, you lose that fire, you get a little off, you lose your confidence. And then 2 years later, he would give anything to get back to the play that won the FedEx Cup. And, you know, I mean, the same thing was true of Tiger Woods. I mean, it cost him 2 years, 3 different times. It's not unique. Almost every professional golfer is out there. But the one thing I say sitting in this job for 20 years is I've watched it and I was a victim of it. And it's like, all things being equal, experience will make you a better player until there's physiological decline, until you can't do the things physically that you need to be able to do. All things better, experience will make you better. And you just keep nipping away at adding little shots here and little shots there. And that makes you a better player. The way you think makes you a better player, but it's so dangerous. I always say the most dangerous place at any tour event is not out of bounds, it's not water, it's not aiming the corner, it's the driving range. That place where careers are lost quicker than any other place on the PGA Tour. Because you look behind those tour players who are unbelievably good at what they do. And there they are creeping along like sharks, are the teachers, just looking to poke a player here or there. And yeah, we do talk about the ones that work. We don't often talk about the ones that don't work because they're not on the leaderboard, so we won't talk about them anymore. And that's a dangerous place to go messing around with the golf swing. Hopefully Viktor Hovland gets right back to where he was because he's so exciting to watch. But man, it cost him 2 years right in the sweet spot of his career.
Yeah, well, and aren't we quick to forget, by the way, that 2-year doldrums that he's had? He was a hair's breadth away from becoming a major champion last year at Valhalla as well. It's very easy to
So
forget that
good, yeah.
quickly, isn't it? Billy, you were obviously right in the mix yesterday, and it's such a bunched concertina leaderboard. When it's like that and you're in contention, you must feel like any backward step and you're almost out of it, and any forward step and you can almost snatch the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I made a really bad bogey. I was 7 under on number 11 with a 5 wood in my hand to that par 5. Sort of pushed it right and then have a chance to make a birdie. So I know I drop a shot there, and here I am. I'm playing an hour in front of the leaders. Obviously, we're a tight leaderboard. And so obviously I'll make a birdie there, and I go to 12 and I just sort of relax a little bit on the tee shot with a 5-iron in my hand. I block it right in the rough and I wind up making a bad bogey. Bounce back with birdies at 13 and 14. I'm like, okay, 8 under. If I can somehow get, sneak another birdie or two to get the 10, if I can get the 10, I got a chance. But yeah, I mean, when it's that tight, there's really no point to look at the leaderboard.
Right.
I didn't look at it at all. I knew I just needed to keep making birdies because it's so tight. I knew the course was gettable if you were playing well and you're hitting quality golf shots. I knew guys were gonna be making birdies, and so yeah. I mean, I knew in the back of my mind, like, hey, I'm in a really good spot. I need to press forward here. Um, but at the same time, you're like, the inkling in the back of your head is like, let's not mess this up and screw up a really good tournament finish for the end of the week. And so, yeah, I mean, I was happy. I walked off number 18, absolutely frustrated because I just missed a 6-footer up the hill, right center. I mean, I make that 90% of the time in my career, and I just hit a bad putt. and it happens. But yeah, it was a good week. I was very happy. My game this year it hasn't been great. It hasn't been bad. It's just sort of been blah. Um, the driver wasn't good at the beginning of the driver and putter, which is two of my strengths, haven't been good, and sort of figured that out coming back to the East Coast. Um, but mentally, I've been sort of in a blah state mentally. I have sort of been playing golf where I want to hit good golf shots, but want to hit I don't want to hit bad golf shots. I've been truly committed, and so it was funny. Listen to Rory's interview after the Players Championship talk about walking 17 the playoff, and he saw himself saw himself visioning himself hitting the water, and he's like, I had to get back and I have to do a really good job of self-positive talk and seeing the quality golf shot I want to hit. And it's funny, obviously I have my coaches and I have my sports psychologists and we've talked about this, but it's funny how, just hearing other guys' talk and the way they, hearing that quote from Rory sort of just said, "Hey, I need to do a better job." Like I know we all are in the same boat. We all think the same way. Sometimes we think other guys are superhuman and don't have these bad thoughts, but they do. And it sort of reset me like, hey, I need to go out there and commit to every shot because that's what's holding me back. It's yeah, we can say my swing wise is a little bit off and the putting hasn't been as good and this and that, but mentally I haven't been as good this year as I was for majority part of last year. And so I needed a good week mentally to get ready for Augusta, and I had one last week. So, it was a good finish, and a lot of good positives came out of last week for me.
Well, as you say, Billy, there were a lot of birdies being made out there yesterday, but one birdie stood head and shoulders above all others. Let's hear, first of all, what the commentators made of it.
Billy Horschel is not left-handed. Oh,
Pretty good swing left-handed, though.
how about that shot at 5?
Are you kidding me? That is unreal. I mean, he looked good doing it. Do you ever practice left-handed shots?
I did, and I never pulled him off that well. Well, this would be quite some birdie from Billy Horschel. We saw the left-handed shot, quick putt here.
Come on. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got to ask him about that. I want to walk and talk with Billy Horschel right now.
That is unbelievable. You think that knock it on the green left-handed out of the rough with a tree there as well from 123, turning a club upside down. The club is not meant to be hit that way. And to hit it that solid? And then, of course, he just made the putt. Okay, that's the up and down of the weekend.
Up and down of the weekend, maybe the up and down of the year, of any year. Billy, how on earth? How on earth?
Yeah, the par 5 was playing into the wind. I laid up with a 3-iron and I pulled it a little bit and the wind switched. We had it in off the left and it blew in off the right. And so when I pulled it and it didn't cut, it was going towards a tree. I'm like, oh man, this is coming right down on the trunk of the tree. I'm either going to be right behind it. Hopefully I get a break. And I walk up there and I see a ball to the right of it. I'm like, oh, it's right of it. Obviously I have a shot towards the green. Whether I can hit it right-handed now is another thing. And I tried to straddle that tree every possible way to be able to make a swing right-handed, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I was like, I've got to flip it around. We had 124 to the pin. Usually that's a 52. It's a gap wedge. I took a pitching wedge, and I was realizing like, well, I don't think pitching wedge is enough. Hopefully 9-iron is. And the funny thing was my little boy Axel was out there watching with my parents, and he was about 50 yards in front of me sitting on the cart path. And so I had to, as I'm looking, I'm like, man, if I don't hit this right, this could go and hit my boy. And I'm like, I may have to call my wife, like, hey, I just hit Axel with a golf ball, blah, blah. So I yell at him when it's my turn to hit. I'm like, Axel, move out of the way, buddy. Get out of the way. And so I was just hoping to get it up somewhere near the green and maybe left of the pin for someone easy up and down. And I made a swing and it came out, and I looked up and it was, go up in the air. It looked like it had the right distance, and it was just right of the flag, and it landed just short of the green. It bounced up, and I was like, man, that's nice. Now I can make an easy par, and then to make the putt on top of it was just, I mean, it was just stupid. It honestly was. I mean, it's I don't. Someone, my college coach, I was talking to him on the way back home last night on the drive, and he's like, "Do you practice that shot?" I'm driving. He said, "No, I never hit it." And he said, "You don't practice it." I said, "No." I said, I may hit it once in a blue moon playing with my buddies at home. And like I said, last time I think I hit it was at Concessions playing with Concession Golf Club down the road in Sarasota with Mark Noble actually playing last
Oh,
summer.
really?
We were playing with Noble, and there was a ball on the edge of the water, and I didn't want to stand in the water to hit it, so I flipped around the 7-iron. And I hit it like 150 yards up near the green. But yeah, that's the last time I think I've ever hit a shot left-handed, and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that the ball went somewhere straight and it got on the green. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's
Extraordinary.
a lucky golf shot.
It's
I
not
mean, yeah,
lucky, Billy. Don't
it
play
take
it
listen,
down.
let me say this. It does take skill to flip around the club and hit and make contact with the ball. But I mean, for me to say that, yeah, I was gonna hit this on the green and hit it to 30 feet, like there is a sense of luck. There's a sense of skill, and it takes skill to be able to do that. But I mean, there is a degree of luck in it as well.
Brandel. Young William is being far too modest here.
No,
Can you just put
Brandel
into
has to
terms?
agree with me.
Can you just put into
Brandel,
terms how skillful that
be
is?
Brandel on this one. Be Brandel on this one. Don't be soft.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. So if you think about where that face is sitting, however I get my arm, I mean, like
Yeah,
the face
there's
would
not a
be
lot of club to hit the ball with.
the face would be like pointing. Let me try to do like I don't even know where the face would be pointing. It's certainly not square to your line.
No.
So
No,
I have
it's
to
like
aim. I have to aim left. Yeah, let me think.
see,
I
you
aim. I
made all
aim way
these
left
you made all
because
these
the ball's gonna come off
improvisations
right.
in the moment.
Correct.
Oh, I mean, every golfer's tried that every now and then, but you fat them, you blade them, you hit one good out of 10 or 15 or
Correct.
something. But in the moment to pull that off, and then to
In
make
the
the putt
final round of a PGA
in the
Tour
final
event,
round
to
of the
pull it off
tournament
when you're in the mix.
where he's contending, like they should start a new award, like the oh my god up and down. I mean, I'm trying to think of Seve. I remember Corey Pavin getting one up and down once, having to hit it left-handed. Up against a cart path. But no, I never seen anything like that. I've actually never seen anything like that. I again, my wife and I were out, and I was trying to keep up with the event, and she scrolls and she finds it. She goes, "What is this?" And I stopped and was like, the only thing I could think, because I didn't have any context at the moment, I thought, is he playing bad and he's frustrated? He's like, no, he's challenging for the damn golf tournament. He's like, he's got a chance to win. So none of it made sense till I got home and saw that he was up against the tree. Anyway, it was great entertainment. By the way, I mean, not to blow smoke here, Billy, but your interview this year with Cara coming off at the Players, coming off 11 on 12, that interview going down the fairway there when you were you and Cara was like, I didn't know, should I interview him? He looked angry, but then he was like, no, let's do it. That was one of the best interviews of the year because it was raw, it was in the moment, and it just summed up how. Because all we ever really do is talk about the winners and watch the winners. And, here you are, not having a good day. You're not in control. You're on this really tough golf course. And you did the interview and you're like, no, I have no clue where it's going right now. Absolutely no clue what I'm doing. It was a great interview. So you got two of the best this year so far, Billy.
He never disappoints, Billy. He never disappoints. Well, let's talk a bit about Justin Thomas now, because this was weirdly reminiscent of the last 2 weeks. A fortnight ago at Bay Hill, Colin Morikawa was leading by 3 late on Sunday, didn't get it done. At the Players, Rory McIlroy led by 3 late on Sunday, just about got it done. And again, JT was 3 clear and looked to have his name in the trophy, as Billy was saying, only for it to slip through his fingers. Coming up to 3 years now since his last win, which is incredible, really, Brandel, when you think about it. How big a blow psychologically will yesterday have been for JT?
I don't know. I mean, the better you are, the more times you get, your guts torn out by this game. So it's part of being a really great player is you just got to deal with painful losses. I said this at Bay Hill. Look, Jack Nicklaus finished second 19 times in major championships. You think those 19 seconds didn't hurt, every single one of them? Could you have left there devastated psychologically or pumped up that you're playing such good golf? I look at Justin Thomas. He said 3 second place finishes in his last, 6 tournaments, something like that. I mean, to me, that's like he's getting ready to be a lion just coming out of a cage roaring. He's getting ready to kick some ass, which is great to see, that he's kind of back. He's kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together again, going down a rabbit hole with his golf swing.
Yeah.
Going back a few years ago, he would give anything to get back to where he was in 2021. And so it's good to see that he's put the pieces of the puzzle back together. But, I mean, every golfer is dealing with some weakness somewhere, pretty much. And with JT, It's driving accuracy. If he were sitting here right now, he'd admit as much. And he's never really had, and this is crazy to say about somebody who's won prolifically in majors and in players. He's done it all. He's like, at this age, into the Hall of Fame. But I wouldn't say that he's ever really had that stinger shot that Tiger had. Got to hit it in the fairway, shot for your life. And that's where 16, 18 is, those are really tough driving holes. But you got to put it in the fairway. And he didn't do it. But you leave there and you think, gutted you didn't win. I don't know if gutted is the right word, disappointed, but you have to be pumped up that you're playing that kind of golf, Billy.
Yeah.
No, listen, I think JT's playing some great golf this year. You've seen it. I mean, he's been in contention a lot of times. I think ball striking wise, he's always obviously had that year in 23, same thing where he struggled a little bit. 24 last year, you started seeing a little bit more of the remnants of JT. And listen, I think he, tee to green, I think he's done very well. I've always said this about JT. Since he's been out on tour, I think he, in sense of talent alone, he's probably top 3 on the PGA Tour, and that's taking the guys that went to live, add those guys, top 3 talents in the world because of how far he hits it. Now, is he the longest? No, but he hits it plenty far enough to compete at any golf tournament and not be at a disadvantage. But what makes him so special is his iron play and his wedge play. And he is top 5 in the world, top 3 in the world in iron play and wedge play around the greens. If I need somebody to get up and down, I'm going with Jordan Spieth. I mean, not Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. Jordan Spieth is great. Phil Mickelson's great. Justin Thomas has more shots than anyone I've ever seen around the green, maybe outside of Tiger. But I've always said the 2 things that dictates how well or how great he's going to be is one thing you said, driving accuracy. And the other thing that I've always said, really bigger key, is consistency in putting. How well, if he can be a better putter on a more regular basis, he doesn't need to be a great putter. He just needs to be a top 50 putter. I'm not sure where he is in strokes gained putting. I don't look at other people's numbers, but just watching him putt and everything, and how many chances. Yes, he gives himself more chances, so he's going to miss more than most people. But I think putting is what I would say has, if anything, held him back from winning more majors and winning more tournaments, because he's got that belief. He's got that, that aggressive nature that he's always going forward. He's never really afraid of the moment. He's always trying to hit a great golf shot. And when you're doing that, you're going to hit some bad golf shots. You're going to pay the price. But he's never afraid of the moment, and that's what makes him so special.
Yeah, well said. Look, one amusing moment from the Valspar. It involved the usually mild-mannered Adam Hadwin. Frustrated as he walked off a green, he slammed his club into the ground, unbeknownst to him, right on top of a hidden sprinkler head. Cue water spraying everywhere, and Adam, in a very bashful way, Billy, looking mortified.
Yeah, let's just say he knew there was a sprinkler head there when you hit it.
Oh, did he?
There's no doubt. Oh, there is no doubt. We as players, and as we have all, we were joking, joking on his behalf. There's many times when you're angry and you want to slam your club and you see your sprinkler head and you think about hitting your club on the sprinkler head. But, every time I think of it, I think of Davis Love at Bay Hill on number 17 in 1999, plugs it in the bunker, hits it out to 30 feet. I think he was 1 off the lead at the time or whatever. And then he comes out and hits his, wedge on the sprinkler, and then it busts open and literally the entire bunker just gets filled with water and destroys that entire thing. And he makes the par putt, by the way, 30-foot par putt. But I think of that moment. And so, yeah, I mean, we've all been there before. And listen, it wasn't, I'm going to say he probably saw there was a sprinkler head there, because they cut. Listen, even though it was in the rough and it's long rough, they make sure that they cut the rough around it, so the sprinkler heads get out and water. So, yeah, it was. We were all laughing on his behalf. Listen, it happens. It's not a great look. He probably feels absolutely embarrassed for it. And as we were all, people were asking, players were asking, like, is he gonna get fined? I'm like, yeah, he's gonna get fined. There's no doubt he's getting fined.
It seemed very un-Adam Hadwin-esque, I have to say. Jens, we'll wrap things up for the Valspar by pointing out, so far this season, It's now 5 wins for American golfers in the PGA Tour and 6 wins for European golfers. Okay, it's still only March. We're not getting carried away on this side of the pond, but Luke Donald will be a happy man at the moment, won't he, Brandel?
Very. Every time Paul comes up on our set, Paul McGinley comes up on our set, I try to goad him into getting giddy about the European success, and he, Paul plays his cards so close to his vest, and the Ryder Cup is everything to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're getting giddy. Stop it right now. You're a long way away." But you can't help but look at the trend that's going on with Europe right now and think, there's nothing more exciting. And Rory said it at the last Ryder Cup, like the hardest thing to do in golf is to win on foreign soil. Mind you, it's only been done 5 times since it became continental Europe and the US. And Europe's done it 4 of those. So, the US has just done it 1 time since it became continental US. So Europe's done it 4 times, and they've already done it in New York City. And I think the United States has a dilemma. So the United States has always had the advantage of hitting it 9 miles and all over the place, but being great iron players and scramblers. So they set up the golf course at home that way. But over the last few years, the U.S. players have become more control players. They're more like the European players. So that same course setup will not be the advantage it's been in the past for the U.S., I would argue. So, how are they going to set that golf course up? Are they going to set it up, long and wrong? Or are they going to set it up more like Europe sets it up? Because that's more to their strength at this point. So I'll be very curious to see how they set up that golf course. And I know the home course, home country advantage is huge in the Ryder Cup, but there are a lot of Irish people floating around New York City.
Yeah, we get everywhere. We get everywhere.
They're everywhere. There are a lot. And look, it's out there. It's going to be such a spectacle. And Billy, I hope you're on that team because you did bring so much passion to the team events. And it'll be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Ryder Cup. Listen, I was fortunate enough to make the President's Cup team in 22, and that was an awesome experience to finally be part of a team. But as I've always said, listen, I love the President's Cup. It's a great event, but all I really ever cared about was making the Ryder Cup team. Like, that's the team I want to be a part of. That's the team I grew up watching. You see the emotion. You see, how much it means to all the players. You see how much it means to the fans. I mean, that is just, if you can't get energized and can't get jacked up and have even more passion and care more about something beyond yourself, then you aren't living. But this Ryder Cup's gonna be different. The New York crowd, that Northeast area, this is gonna be unlike anything that any player's ever seen or the Ryder Cup's ever seen. I think it's gonna be very boisterous. It's gonna be a la the 2002 U.S. Open at Bethpage Black when we first went there. The chants, the way they got on Sergio, like the crowd's going to be that way a little bit. And I'm not saying it's right, but I hope it's a respectful crowd. But listen, they're going to be on Europe early on, and if the U.S. side doesn't play well, they're going to be on the U.S. team as well for playing bad golf.
Yeah.
So listen, it's going to go both ways, but I think it's going to be one of the most electric Ryder Cups that we've ever seen. And I think, if you look back 4 years ago where people started writing off Europe and saying, hey, U.S. team, look at this squad. They've got 20 guys deep that can make this team. They're all young. They're just going to dominate over the next decade of these competitions. And you see what Europe has done, and, you can never count them out because – yes, they, the player wise and on paper, but there's just something about that Europe when they come together as a team. The guys that may be lesser players in sense of on paper, they seem to raise their game, and it's the likes of John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, the leaders in that team are able to bring those guys along and make them feel as one, as Seve did, with all those guys back in the day when he, when they started, their form of domination or starting to compete and win Ryder Cups.
Yeah, well, look, I would echo what Brandel says. I hope you're on that US team as well, Billy. It might be the one week of the year where I'm not rooting for you, but I'm sure you'll give me a pass.
That's okay. That's okay.
Ryder Cup watch in terms of the European golfers, as well as a win for Viktor. Shane Lowry finishing a tie for 8th, just couldn't hold a putt all weekend, really. But Shane's Florida stretch reads 11th, 7th, 20th, 8th. And remember, runner-up finish to Rory earlier in the season at Pebble too. He's playing great golf, and he loves Augusta National, by the way. I should just mention his fellow countryman, Seamus Parr. He'd be a dark horse for the Ryder Cup, but he was alongside Shane in a tie for 8th. Another top 20 finish for Tommy Fleetwood, the model of consistency. Thomas Dietrich finished in a tie for 22nd, as did Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, and Sepp Straka tied for 28th. Miscut, though, for Nikolai Højgaard, part of that winning team in Rome, of course. Right, we're going to move on. By the time you're listening to this, it may well have been and gone, but as we record, we're just hours away from the final of the inaugural TGL season. We are down to the final 2. New York Golf Club taking on Billy Horschel's Atlanta Drive. So, Billy, how are we feeling?
Yeah, I feel good. Listen, the match is at 9 o'clock tonight, so it's a late one. But yeah, I think we've got a good team, and Patrick and JT that's going to be on tonight. Hopefully, it's a best of 3. So we got 1 tonight and then 2 tomorrow night. Third match if need be after the second. So hopefully we can go down there, get off, and get the victory tonight, and sort of have the momentum going in tomorrow night. But listen, I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been really cool. I think majority of people from the inside to outside were hesitant. I think there was still some of that little uneasiness the first couple of weeks, but I think after a few changes, the last month, the last 6 weeks have gone very well for TGL, and hopefully we can finish it off these next 2 nights and sort of carry that momentum into 25 or 26 of next year. Yeah, I think 26. So
well, look, it's been really evident how much fun you've had out there. Yourself and JT, clearly natural extroverts and made for this type of thing. Patrick Cantley maybe a bit more reserved, but you've clearly bought into it, and I think the success of TGL depends on the players really buying into it.
yeah, listen, I've said it from the very beginning. This is going to be completely different than what we do on the PGA Tour. We have to be more entertainers. We have to show more of ourselves, which some guys aren't accustomed or comfortable doing. You have to sort of show more vulnerability, show who you are behind closed doors with your friends and family, show who you are on the weekend playing with your buddies, having fun. Like that's what people want to see. They want to see who you are away from a PGA Tour
Yeah.
event inside the ropes. As I said, listen, um, the way people view me on the PGA Tour and the way they see me inside the ropes, like, yes, I have fun and I'm enjoyable, but the little bit the camera shows me, I can be very intense. And obviously, I've had my moments hot under the collar, and you can view me in one way, but that's such a small sort of spectrum to see because I'm a fiery competitor. Like, I want to win, I want to play so bad. And when things aren't going my way, I get frustrated because I know what I can do and I'm not playing at my level. It gets frustrating. But when you see me, if you follow my group, like I'm hanging out, I'm talking with my fellow playing partners. We're joking around. I'll have conversation with fans sometimes, depending on what is brought up. So I'm so much more than a snippet of what you see on TV doing shots. And so what you've seen in TGL is who I am
Yeah.
every other day of my life.
Yeah, amen to that. Brandel, what have you made of the first season?
Well, I think it's important that golf tries to tap into the success of the YouTubers that we've seen. They got millions of followers out there. And, when you watch the Phoenix Open, it's a one-off, the WM Phoenix Open, and you see the excitement, the fun that everybody's having on the 16th hole there. And you see how much success YouTube golfers are having. And then you think about the people that are untouched by the game of golf, the gamers. There's a billion gamers in the world. They try to get a connection with a younger audience. I think it's really cool what they're trying to do and doing it quite successfully. I mean, the last time I looked at the average ratings, it was something like 600,000 on average, something like that. That's a pretty massive audience for a Monday, Tuesday sort of night. It's certainly superior than whatever the programming was on there before, and it's connecting to that younger audience, which again, when you look at the success of YouTube golf and you think, well, why are we ceding that ground to those who choose to chase it? Why would we not try to tap into it with the best players in the world and show their personalities? When Billy's out there yucking it up with his buddies, at home, I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that side of Billy, and they're getting to see it. I've got a good friend of mine is Riggs from Barstool. So I hang out with Riggs and his buddies here when I'm home, and they're funny as hell guys. And, you put a camera on them, you put it on YouTube, and 1 million people watch it. And they're shooting 80 for crying out loud. Now, a million people are watching these yahoos, and I say that in a lovely, respectful way, shoot 80 or 85 or, in the case of Trent, shooting, 20 over par. People are tuning in because they can relate to it, but they're also funny. So I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's great for professional golf. You want to connect to a younger audience, and that's what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Absolutely. Your opponents tonight, Cam Young, who actually is a New Yorker, Ricky Fowler, and Xander Schauffele, who I think the three of you have already got earmarked as the little irritant who's going to try to get under your skin tonight.
Well, it's funny, JT said that last week, and obviously, I have a great relationship with Xander, and I remember playing with him as a rookie. I'm like, this guy's gonna be really good. But yeah, they have a little bit more experience. PC and JT do, playing with him a lot and playing in money games. But Xander did say Wednesday when we got done playing the pro am, and we're on the putting green, I think, and he goes, "I just did my interview for this week, and they were asking about TGL." I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's gonna be exciting." He said, "Yeah." I just told him we can't get Billy going. We can't rile him up. If we rile him up, it's bad for us. So we can't get under his
Don't
skin.
poke the bear.
Yeah, you just can't poke the bear. So I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, Xander's gonna be chirping a lot. That's what he does. And listen, it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a good couple matches. Hopefully it's only two, and hopefully that's all Atlanta Drive needs to get it done.
Good stuff. Listen, the TGL final starts tonight. As Billy says, match 2 tomorrow night. And if needs be, i.e. if it's 1-1 after those two, there'll be a deciding match tomorrow night too. All live on Sky Sports. Of course, Billy says it's a late one for him, 9 p.m. It's 1 in the morning for us, but get the coffee brewing and make sure you don't miss it. We're going to take a quick break there. When we return, we'll wrap up the other bits and bobs from around the world of golf. And we'll have part 1 of what I have to say was a fascinating chat I had with Steve Williams, the man who had a front row seat to some of the most breathtaking accomplishments we have ever seen and will ever see on a golf course. Welcome back to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway, Brandel, Chamblee, and Billy Horschel still with me. To wrap up some events from around the world, Richard Mansell got his maiden victory on the DP World Tour, winning the Porsche Singapore Open, which had to be cut short to 54 holes after some absolutely horrific biblical rain in Singapore. Meant Thursday was a total washout. It's his first win at his 104th attempt.
God, I wish it had come earlier. What a feeling. I just to get into that position, and I played so well today. First week with a new caddie, so that was a good start. And he just kind of a couple of times got me to slow down, and yeah, it just kind of makes them near misses. And when I've kind of got ahead of myself in the past, just kind of worth it, and it just means that much more. One thing I'll say to kind of people trying to do it as a career, that moment's the most fulfilling thing in the world, and it's worth it. So stick in, and hopefully you get rewarded one day like I have today.
Billy, we all think of you over here as an adopted Brit, and you've played a lot on the DP World Tour. So you'll know that Rich has been a very tidy player for a long time, but getting that first win is always a difficult hurdle.
It always is. I mean, you believe you can do it. You put in all hard work. You see what other guys are doing. You see who the other guys are that winning, and sometimes you compare yourself and be along the lines of, hey, I know I'm better than him, or I'm just as good as him, and he's winning out here. Why am I not winning? And so there's always that doubt. And when you get in those situations and you don't get across the line, it's sort of that doubt, builds a little bit. But yeah, you got to believe. You got to continue to believe it's going to happen. Continue to work. And one thing Richard said that wasn't in there that I watched was that he was close a couple of years ago, and this goes on to what Brandel said. He was close a couple of years ago and didn't get it done, and he made a few changes, and he looks back now, and those changes he felt like now looking back were a detriment. That if he would have stayed the path that he was on, he thought he would have gotten a win sooner. So he made some changes, did some things differently. I think he said he didn't take ownership of a couple things and started blaming other people for why he wasn't winning. And he had to do a reset, I think, somewhere last year or in the last year to sort of get back to taking more ownership of everything. And obviously that led to him, in the winner's circle this week or this past week.
Yeah, and some wonderful videos doing the rounds on socials. His wife Ellie in floods of tears. His best pal is Callum Hill, who won a fortnight ago in Joburg. We had him in the pod then. Richard was the very first man on that 18th green in Joburg to spray Callum with champagne or fizzy water, whatever it is. And Callum returned the favor yesterday. Lovely to see. As you know, Billy, we're one big happy family on the DP World Tour. On the Asian Tour, Carlos Ortiz won the International Series Macau. In doing so, earning himself a spot at this year's Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Runner-up Patrick Reed, third place Jason Kokrak, also qualified for the Open. Sergio Garcia just missing out. But the live players descended on Macau for this event, as they're well within their rights to do. I, however, Brandel, can't help but feel a little bit sorry for the regular Asian Tour players who grind away there week in, week out. Here's the chance for 3 spots at Portrush, and they all get snapped up by live players.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. Another is they get to, judge their game against some of the best players in the world. And because better players come to their tour, more eyeballs are on their tour. So there's a chance that their stories. You're going to tune in and watch them. You're going to learn a little bit more about them. And the next time they play, they show up. I mean, even some of these lesser events on the PGA Tour, when some of the superior players or the better players go to play in them, somebody will go, what are they even doing over there? It's like, well, they're there, so it brings more eyeballs. So you learn the stories of a Joe Highsmith, or you learn the stories of a Brian Campbell. You learn the stories of an Audric Potgieter. And look, if you're going to make it in this game, and I mean, pretty much everybody, is trying to get to, and I mean, the highest level of this game, at some point, you've got to get slapped in the face with where you need to improve. And so it's good that these guys are taking advantage of their opportunities. By the way, I mean, they need to do that if they're going to go get world ranking points on the Live Tour. They've got to jump around. I'll tip my cap to Joaquin Niemann for doing that. I'll tip my cap to the Live players that are Tyrrell Hatton, trying to make the most of it when they're not playing these Live events. But it is, I'm getting ready for the Masters. So, Billy's getting ready for TGL, doing his thing, getting ready for the Masters to play it, and I'm getting ready to talk about it. And so when I sit here, I got legal pads everywhere, and I always look at the top 50 players. It's always hard to sit down and judge what kind of games these Live players have. And so when they sort of cross-populate at events where the golf courses are set up for the highest level of golf, then you can get a better sense of where they're at. It's hard to get a sense of where they're at playing Live events. Those golf courses are not set up in what you would say a sort of a strenuous PGA Tour, DP World Tour way. So it's really tough to get your arms around where they're at. So I do go back and look at these events and see when they've cross-populated at more stringent golf courses.
USA also announced last week that their Solheim Cup captain for next year's edition in the Netherlands will be Angela Stanford. Anna Nordqvist had already been confirmed as captain for Europe, of course. A popular appointment, Brandel?
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. I've sparred with her back and forth. She's a good old Texas girl, a hell of a player, known to be pretty feisty. I think she's really smart. I think she'll be an excellent captain. I really do. She's very popular again with her peers. She'll twerp at me. She'll send me text messages. She'll send me tweets. Anytime I start to say anybody's golf swing's better than Ben Hogan's, she'll get mad at me and come at me. and I love that about her. I mean, she will defend that Ben Hogan golf swing to the nth degree, and it's fun to talk a little golf with her.
Yeah, look, a very popular appointment, I'm sure. Also in the women's game, Mimi Rhodes, in just her 4th event as a full-time member of the Ladies European Tour, claimed her first title, the New South Wales Open. She shot a course record 62 in her second round. Really impressive amateur career. Won the Justin Rose Telegraph Junior Championship, the Curtis Cup as well, part of a winning Curtis Cup team. So her star continues to rise. But now, to part one of a chat I had last week with Steve Williams, Tiger Woods caddy for 12 years and for 13 of his 15 majors. He's written a book alongside Evan Priest called Together We Roared. I genuinely loved it. An intimate portrayal of the time they spent together. A love story, really, to Tiger. Some great little anecdotes in there. You see a completely different side to Tiger, discover just how close their friendship became. And yes, of course, we spoke about how that friendship also came abruptly to an end. We ended up speaking for far longer than we both intended, hence why we're bringing it to you in 2 chunks. And in today's first part, Steve looks back on perhaps the most remarkable achievement the game has ever seen and will ever see, the Tiger Slam. But he began by telling me that he had reservations about even taking the job in the first place. Steve, thanks so much for your time. I genuinely really enjoyed Together We Roared. It is a fascinating insight into a clearly incredibly close, intense, intimate relationship. I thought it was fantastic. I want to go back to the very, very start. You spoke to several people, Ian Baker Finch, Fanny Sunison, Earl Woods, because you had reservations about taking this job on in the first place.
Yeah, well, it was 1999, and actually in the back of my head, I'd had a discussion with Ray Floyd, who I was caddying for at the time, that perhaps 2000 might be the end of my caddying thing. And you know, I really enjoy working with junior golfers, and I thought the knowledge that I'd accumulated from, you know, caddying on the tour from the late 70s through to 2000, perhaps I could take that knowledge with me and get into some kind of junior golf program back in New Zealand to enable a better pathway for juniors to, you know, go through the amateur ranks and onto the professional ranks. But then, you know, the offer came from Tiger, and I didn't, you know, I took 24 hours, 48 hours to decide where I was going to take the job. But, you know, I'm obviously thankful that I made the right decision, or not the right decision, but a good decision.
I think it was a pretty good decision. And that very first major win together, the 1999 PGA Championship at Medina, the amount of pressure that was on Tiger, the fact, and this seems incredible now, all these years on, that Sergio was kind of the crowd favorite, not Tiger, and what you felt was a sliding doors moment, not just in your relationship, but perhaps in Tiger's career, when you overruled him on the 71st hole.
Yeah, look, I mean, Tiger's whole career, and when I went to take the job with Tiger and talked to him about, you know, what his plan is and what his goals were, it was just, you know, overwhelming importance placed on the major championships. And obviously, you know, following his victory at the Masters, he, you know, he hadn't won another major championship, and I step on the bag in 1999, and he doesn't get in contention at the Masters, US Open, or the PGA. So with every major that passes by, it's one less chance to win one, and he's not getting his career on the track that he wanted to get on. So I could sense that straight away. So yeah, on the 71st hole, and that I said to Tiger, he read the putt and said that, you know, it's outside the hole, and I assured him it was inside the hole. You know, it's a big call. It's the first time we've had a chance to win a major. He's actually faltering a little bit down the stretch. Sergio's got the crowd behind him, and you know, he knocked that putt in. Who knows where his career may have gone had he have not knocked that putt in and gone on to beat Sergio. The second major, I feel, is the hardest one to win. And you look at the number of players, great players, and Sergio comes to name there, you know, a very, very accomplished player that's only won one major championship, certainly got the game to win more. So I think the second one's the hardest to win. And once you can get over that, you're away. And, you know, Tiger obviously won that in 1999. So he's not starting 2000 with that extra pressure of trying to win that second major and, you know, start this run. So very important moment, and it put a very close bond between us of trust. You know, in a big moment, I overruled Tiger. I was correct, and that's where you know, a huge amount of our trust that followed in the subsequent years was born.
And obviously this incredible run, which we're going to get to, starts at Pebble Beach in 2000, the US Open, perhaps the most famous major victory of all time by 15 shots. But a story I loved was how, unbeknownst to Tiger, he's standing on the 36th hole at Pebble Beach with only one ball remaining.
Yeah, look, it's a story that we've gone over and over, and I've told thousands and thousands of times. But in a nutshell, it was a continuation of a fog delay from Friday that we had 5 holes remaining to play on Saturday morning. Tiger, it was a very early start, and due to the weather conditions, it wasn't possible to go to the driving range putting green and then take the shuttle out all the way to the 14th hole and get yourself in position to start play. So he actually took 3 balls out of his bag and putted on the carpet in his room and didn't put the balls back. So when I went into the room to pick the clubs up, it was just a continuation of the second round. I didn't need to do anything. Everything was already in the bag from the previous day. We got out there and we only had 3 balls in the bag. Not a big deal. Very first hole, the 14th hole up the short par 4 up the hill there, he hit a wedge out of the rough, scuffed the ball, threw the ball to a young man in the crowd who was absolutely delighted to get it. And I'm almost wanted to go over and get the ball off the kid, but you know, I could see him walking along. It's early in the morning. He's showing his dad, I got this ball from Tiger. It's got his name on it. He's so excited. We play 15, 16, 17. He hooks it in the ocean with his first tee shot on 18. So now we're down to 1 ball. And of course, I want Tiger to hit an iron for his next shot. He doesn't obviously know why. And there was a sort of heated discussion, which I lost. And, you know, it's the only time I've ever stood on a tee or any part of the golf course and been absolutely trembling. I was shaking because if he hits this ball out of bounds, to the point where we can't find it in sufficient time, or he hooks it back in the water, we've got no golf balls left, and we joked about that for years. It was pretty funny.
I'm going to fast forward to Augusta in 2001. Can you give us an idea of the scale of the pressure that you felt trying to complete what we all now know as the Tiger Slam?
There was so much talk about it, and to actually go out there, I mean, he practices hard for every major championship, but he was really, from the start of the season in 2002, he was eyeing that major championship. 2001, sorry, he was eyeing that major championship like no other tournament that he'd played in, and there certainly was a lot of pressure, but there was a lot of fun involved with that pressure, because it's a the ultimate chance to do something that realistically probably no one else is ever going to do. So you got to see that as a fun thing. It's a challenge, and make it fun. And for Tiger to actually pull that off, I don't think there's ever been any golf event where a player's been under more scrutiny than that, and more pressure, because ultimately, if you asked him, he said, "Yeah, I might be able to do it again," but you can't do it again until if you do it the first time. So there's a huge amount of pressure, no question about that. But it's good pressure. It's something, and like for him to pull it off, it was unbelievable. And all these years later, when you look back at all these special moments, it's like, wow, I mean, that was an amazing feat to actually do that, given everybody was, there's so much scrutiny around it, so much talk about it. Could he do it? And yeah, it was a very special moment in golf.
Yeah, incredible. And yeah, you're right. I don't think we ever will see it again. And incredibly, it wasn't too long after completing the Tiger Slam, he makes a decision to split from Butch Harmon. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, but had he stayed with Butch, do you think he would have overhauled Jack's 18?
Oh, look, that's a question that comes up a lot, but have kept a lot of statistics caddying for Tiger, and this is more statistics that were then currently available back in the early days as compared to now. But my statistics would tell me that Tiger played just as good under Hank Haney and under Butch Harmon. So it's a hypothetical question, but no, I don't think that's a fair statement. I think that he has the ability and the determination to overcome so many different things, and when he's making a new swing change, he gives those swing changes a lot of thought, and if he believes something can be better and he can improve on some parts of his game, so, but no, he, like I say, and my statistics tell me that he played equally as good under Hank's tutelage and under Butch Harmon's tutelage. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the other stories I really love the following year, 2003 Masters. You advised him to hit a driver in the third. He hit a shocking drive, didn't speak to you for 6 holes. Before in the ninth, you eventually say to him, and I quote, "You hit a shot, stop acting like a child," and there follows a fairly public back and forth. So talk us through your memories of that.
Yeah, look, I'd been out on the golf course early in the morning, as I always do at Augusta, and saw that the tee placement was down on the front of the tee, moved forward on the third, which makes it very possible to drive the green there. Tiger was starting the day, from memory, 4 or 5 shots back from the lead. He starts 4-4, so he's in good shape. And I truly thought there was only one option, that was to hit a driver. It's possible to get the ball on the green, very small odds, but you can actually get it on the green, and possibly if you hit it just a little over the green, it's a very simple up and down to make 3. And I told him on the practice tee, where the tee was on the 3rd hole, and I always told him where the tee was on the 4th hole, how long the 4th hole was playing, where the pin placement was on 4, so you could practice that shot on the range for the 4th hole, because that was always a key hole, the 4th hole. So I told him the tee was down the front on the 3rd, and he didn't say anything, so I just took those, he had hit driver, and we got to the tee there, and he didn't want to drive, and I just didn't understand that, and I thought all day long it's a driver. I talked him into it. He hit a really shot to the right, subsequently made bogey, which basically took him out of the tournament, making a bogey on a hole there where most of the leaders were going to make 3. And it's the first time we'd been on the course. He didn't chat to me, and he was really upset, and he was carrying on like an absolute pork chop. And I got a bit tired of it, and we were going up the 9th hole, and I let it rip. I just gave him an absolute mouthful. Unbeknown to me, a reporter who was, obviously I must have been talking a bit louder than I thought, and a reporter got wind of it. And obviously the next day the story broke that things are very unsettling between Tiger and Steve. They've had an argument, whatever it might be. But Tiger, when he signed a scorecard and came out of scorecard, he was very appreciative of the dressing down that I'd given him. He knew he deserved it, and he knew that I was right. Driver was the play on that tee. He hit a poor shot, but he was, that was another moment that we I think we came closer together. I came off the 80th green and thought, well, it's either going to be really good or I'm going to get fired here. But I didn't, sometimes you've got to say some things, and at that time it needed to be addressed, and you don't carry on like that on the golf course. You still got to, even though he bogeyed the hole, he still had a chance to win the tournament. But his attitude and his thinking over the next few holes cost him any chance of winning the tournament, which is very unlike Tiger. But he just got so unsettled. I mean, you can't get unsettled, and then you can't blame someone. You always, a caddy, you always take the blame if they hit a good shot and you're wrong. But I mean, you can't blame a caddy for hitting a bad shot. I mean, you're not the one swinging the club. You talked them into it. I mean, that's so. But no, that was a moment that another moment that sort of actually made our relationship better, because someone like Tiger doesn't get dressed down too often, so it was good to do it.
By Tiger's incredibly high standards, 2003, 2004 were a bit of a slump, certainly when it came to the majors. But we get to the Masters in 2005, and perhaps the most iconic shot ever hit at Augusta. Now, if anyone reads the book, they will work out pretty quickly just how meticulous you are in your preparations, the detailed yardage books you keep. But that area long and left of 16 was an area you had never laid eyes on before until that final round in 2005. And lo and behold, one of the most famous shots of all time.
Yeah, it's interesting because you stand on the tee there and you watch the ball as Tiger hit the ball off the tee, and I'm thinking, geez, that's a bit left, and I think that's in the bunker. No, it's not in the bunker. No, it's in the water. No, it's not in the water, and I don't know where it's gone. What's over there? And Tiger, as we're walking from the tee up to the green, he's asking me, what's over there? I don't know what's over there. And I always think back, to Jack Nicklaus. He made a great statement that we were playing a practice round with him one time, and I was caddying for Greg Norman, and Greg went over and he was chipping some balls from somewhere at Augusta, and Jack said, why would he go over there and chip it? And I said, well, he might hit it over there. And he said, no, that's the place you don't hit it, so you don't practice. So you never go and practice somewhere where you don't hit it. I thought that was a really good thing going forward. I often saw players go to the 12th hole at Augusta and practice shots from the drop zone, in case they hit it in the water. Well, Jack would never have done that, and Tiger lived by that standard as well. But I got Ian Baker Finch's attention in the TV tower there behind the 15th green. He indicated to me that the ball was okay. We went up there. After a long discussion, Tiger said that, do you think if I land the ball on this pitch mark, it won't roll too far up the hill where it gets too much speed and will come back and go too far past the hole? Well, he landed the ball exactly on that pitch mark. I mean, he could stand there with a shag bag for the rest of his life and hit as many shots as he wanted. He'd never reproduce that shot. It was just an incredible moment. And like it was, like you said, 2003, 2004, after such an incredible run, a swing changed and not the performance in the majors that you wanted. So it sort of slowed down that track to get into 19 or above 19, eclipse Jack's record. So once again, to start 2005, the first major of the year, and put behind a number of majors that had gone without a win, that was as big a part as the whole thing as well.
Billy, that chip from the back of the 16th of the 2005 Masters, maybe the most iconic shot in the history of the game. Do you remember where you were when it happened?
Yeah, I was probably in my house. I was a senior in high school. I was about to graduate in a couple months and go off to the University of Florida. So he was going against a Gator and Chris DeMarco. So,
Yeah.
I was in a win-win or lose-lose situation. Listen, Tiger's one of the biggest role models for me. Chris DeMarco is a Gator, so I was pulling for him. So like I said, I wanted both guys to win, and I was going to be happy if one guy won, but I was also going to be disappointed if the other guy lost. But that shot was unreal. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have as much appreciation for the shot until I went there in 2014 for my first Augusta, for my first Masters, and went back there and I looked at the shot and I saw the whole location, and I was like, gosh, to hit this shot under the pressure that he's feeling on the 70th hole of the Masters, and not only hit an unbelievable shot, but to pull it off. And listen, he wasn't trying to hole it. He was trying to probably get it within 3, 4, 5 feet of the hole to make a putt and for it to to go in the hole, for it to just drip in there. I mean, one of the greatest shots in Masters history by
Yeah.
far.
And Nike could not have drawn up a more perfect advert, could they?
Yeah.
Brandel, we have seen a softer side to Tiger in recent years, but he still remains something of an enigma. To get this kind of insight from somebody who clearly had a very close friendship with him, a confidant of Tiger, of someone who was so single-minded in pursuing his goals, it's fascinating to get a little look behind the curtain.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we eat it up. We can't get enough of it because I think we're all still trying to figure out what it was that we saw. I mean, you couldn't have made that guy up. You couldn't have made his talent up, I played with Tiger a couple times in 1998. And I wasn't gonna not watch, I mean, if you get paired with Tiger, you're playing your rear off, and I was playing my rear off. I actually won the next week after I got paired with him the first time. But I was like, I'm not gonna miss a shot of this. And we played at the International. Billy, I don't know, you played BMW last year, so you would
Yeah, Castle Pines, yeah.
yeah, you would have played there. So that first hole, this 650 or something from an elevated tee, he outdrove me by 50 yards or something. And I went down there and I was like, all right, he had like 260 to the back right pin. And he was down the left side and pin was all the way in the right. And I'm like, I stood like 10 feet from him and watching him face on. He hit this forehand and, we all know where to look. And it wasn't there. It was up there. And then it flew and it landed like 4 feet from the hole and stopped 2 feet from the hole. And I was like, well, I don't have that. I'll never hit that shot. And he went eagle, went birdie, par, birdie. Anyway, we get around to like the 6th hole, and I had about a 10-footer for birdie. He had about a 12-footer, and by now he picked up all these points, and we had a freaking 50,000 people following us. And he makes this putt and dances around the green. And I'm crouched down trying to read my putt, and I looked at him. I was like, I've never been that excited on a golf course in my life. I've never even come close. And if you make it to the tour, you've done some cool things. And I was like, this guy is so into the moment. And then we get to the next hole. There's a par 3, pins back right, and he makes it for a hole in one. And you just can't make this guy up. So he was the longest and straightest at his best, not in 2005, but 98 to 2002. He was longest and straightest, by far the best iron player, the best in the moment short game you'll ever have, the most clutch player, and then mentally. Because when you have a 54-hole closure rate and you've had over 50 54-hole leads of 96%, you can't explain that. By comparison, Nicklaus was a choker. Okay? By comparison. Jack's 54-hole closure rate was 70% and something. By comparison, he couldn't get it done. When you're looking at Tiger. I mean, you just couldn't make him up. And then he wasn't sated by wins or money or any of that. And you think, well, what makes that guy tick? We all have our own. In my mind, I think he learned at a very early age. Of course, the talent was there, but the larger part of who he was between his ears, in my view. And I think he learned at a very early age to control his breathing, to control his heart rate, to be in a moment. And I think he learned that at a ridiculously young age, 6, 7, 8. Okay, by Jay Brunza, the military psychologist that was working with him. And because you watch the very best athletes, they move slower than everybody else. I mean, other athletes have tapped into this. Byron Nelson famously told Tom Watson, slow down, take deep breaths. They're getting there. But, when I go to the gym here and I try to get on this mind map thing, for me to get into that zone, it takes deep breathing for, 10 minutes to get there. Okay, to get the light to go to green, which you're in that perfect spot. And then if somebody walks in the room and I just think for a second, wonder what kind of tennis shoes those are. I go right to the red.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes right to the red, like out of the zone. Like it's as fleeting and as ephemeral as that. And I'm like, how many times you get there in your career? I think Tiger lived there. And that sums up that chip. And incidentally, you wouldn't have heard the same commentary as us, but if you go on YouTube and you can just type in the 2005 Masters and you can get to that spot, one of the greatest calls of all time, Lanny Watkins was on the call. The minute and a half that Lanny Watkins has to set that call up is one of the greatest golf sports calls ever. He so said exactly what Tiger needed to do, what he was looking, and summed it up beautifully. And then
Yeah.
Tiger, and if you watch Tiger's eyes where he's looking, he's looking over here and then he's looking down there, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so in the moment.
I'll have
Um,
to seek out that Lanny Wilkins. I've heard Vern's call obviously many times, but I've not heard the Lanny Wilkins one, so I'll seek that out. Look, this book does give you perhaps a little insight into how the great man ticked, and I'll have the second part of that interview next week when Steve discusses Tiger's tears at Hoylake in 2006 after the passing of his father, the impact that had on Tiger as a person, that miraculous victory at Torrey in 2008 on a broken leg, and they're falling out and split a few years later. It is not to be missed. This week in the world of golf, we have the Texas Children's Houston Open on the PGA Tour. The world numbers 1 and 2, Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, both in the field. Billy, you had a good run at this event last year, T7 finish, I think. Rory's added this to his schedule just to keep the competitive juices ticking over, but also because perhaps this course does prep players quite nicely for Augusta.
Yeah, it was my first time there last year. I've watched the event when it was in the fall in Bermuda, and I just had heard guys say how tough it was chipping around the greens. October, Bermuda could be a little wet with, storms passing around that time. But going there last year, overseed, they overseed the entire golf course. Rough's not very high. I thought it was going to be a scoring fest. I'm like, man, this course is going to be good. 20 on the par is going to win. When this course was in October, 10, 12 under was winning. I'm like, this isn't going to be up my alley. And obviously I was wrong. It's a very big second shot golf course. The greens, have movement in them. They're built up. There's wind. I actually think it's a really good designed golf course. I was just worried about the overseed, and I thought it played lovely. I thought, it's a perfectly designed golf course for Rory. When Rory was talking to me about it, we were talking schedules, I think, end of last year, early this year, and he was mentioning about playing Houston. I said, man, that course is right up your alley. Obviously, there is a distance bias there. There's a lot of holes that he can hit this nice going draw along. I would suspect Rory's got a very good chance to win. I know Scotty Scheffler's in the field, but with the way Rory's been playing this year, where his game's at, wouldn't shock me if he wins this week. And it is a good test because, like I said, the greens are big. They got some slope in them, chipping around the greens, having to hit these chips up to the green, sort of get you ready for Augusta a little bit. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great test. The field's actually a really good one. Like I said, if Rory wins, I'm not shocked by it by all.
That's the Houston Open on the PGA Tour. On the DP World Tour, it's the Hero India Open at the DLF Golf and Country Club. Prepare for some high scoring there. Richard Mansell in the field. Keita Nakajima, who was actually runner-up to Richard Mansell in Singapore yesterday, defending his title there. The LPGA is back after a bit of a hiatus. The Ford Championship in Chandler, Arizona, which I think is probably just around the corner from you, Brandel, is it?
yeah, it's not far away, actually. Yeah,
There you
right
go.
down the
So,
road. Yeah.
yeah, stacked field again, the likes of, Nelly Corden, Lydia Ko, Charlie Hull, etc., etc. But that about does it for today. Brandel, thank you so much for your time.
Real pleasure to join you. I look forward to the rest of the year listening to both of you and watching you play, Billy. Good luck to you.
Thank you,
Well, we'd
Brandel.
love to have you back on again. Thank you. Billy, thank you too, my friend, and I shall see you at Augusta.
Sounds good. Hopefully I can play good so Brandel can be nice to me on the live from I know.
He's always nice to you.
I love
And hopefully
Brandel.
when I see you, Billy, you'll be a TGL champion as well. Fingers crossed.
Listen, it'd be really cool. Listen, if this league, goes on and does the things that we want it to, and it's around for several decades, to be the first ones to win the SoFi Championship would be something to, be very proud of and sort of pop out your chest a little bit, down the road.
Are you going to hit any shots left-handed tonight in the TGL event, Billy?
The great things is that there is no trees on these simulators and everything, and so you can hit one right-handed every time.
I have a feeling that's going to follow you around for a while.
Yeah, that'll be a
Listen,
party piece from now on.
as my wife has said, like, I've been a viral sensation over the last month. Been talking, getting an alligator out of a fairway at Cognizant.
Yes.
The interview with Cara Banks going, and then now this, like, maybe I'm just gonna give up golf and become a YouTube person.
A YouTuber.
Yeah.
Look, if you've liked what you've heard or watched today, make sure you give us a follow on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your pods. While there, why don't you leave us a review? Let us know what you think of the show. Thank you again to Callaway for sponsoring the podcast. Next week, I'll be joined by Sir Nick Faldo, and with the Masters looming, I dare say we should be discussing that with a man who has slipped into that green jacket on 3 separate occasions. So look forward to you joining us then. Thank you again for your time. Do join us again this time next week.